Well, I was getting a little worried I'd run out of stuff to talk about with these upcoming progress videos, but a lot actually happened this month. As I don't really like to end on sour notes, I figure I'll start with the more negative aspects that happened and then transition into the better aspects, the ones that are more fun, a little more happy or uplifting. Take your pick. So, at the bottom of the list, I experienced very intense transphobia for the first time. Both barrels of it. I just went right at it. The first one I got, I thought I had a pretty good handle on. I've seen a lot of troll comments here and there. Basically, they just say something really annoying or something to trigger emotion. I actually explain it to them calmly and then I never hear from them again. This guy came back a few times. At first, this guy was originally on my alternate channel. I basically made this channel about a year ago because it just kind of felt like a weird rebrand, and plus I just wanted something under my new name. So this guy figured out what my main account was, the one I'm uploading this video to, and then proceeded to smear his graffiti over several of my videos. And since my YouTube is connected to my Discord, basically just took that and made it the battle arena. I thought I was doing alright. I thought I was able to get a few punches in, but eventually it was just too much. The best way to describe it is if you've ever seen The Incredibles, and if you haven't, I'll describe it in pretty big detail so you understand how it felt. Basically, the guy was escaping from a really high security area where on both sides of the walls were just full of guns. But instead of firing bullets, what they fired was little bubbles of tar that slowly got bigger and bigger. So this character just simply shrugs off the first 10 or so, but eventually it just gets to the point where it's too much for him. He falls, and then everything just completely goes black. I think that's really the two main things I regret about it is, A, I feel like I surrendered. I wanted them to see it my way, but I guess there's no arguing against a stone wall. And on top of that, they took some really low punches, and I just couldn't stand it, so I started deleting some of the posts, and they're just like, haha, look at this little wimp deleting posts. Oh yeah, well I'm gonna delete you. And then the other thing I regret is, well, maybe it's just me, but after a good argument, I just come up with so many good talking points, and I'm just like, that would have been a good one, or I would have been able to hammer them with that real easily. The second one didn't last too long. They basically just said I should kill myself, and I'm just like, and goodbye. But probably the biggest thing that gets me is this whole happened on Transgender Awareness Day. A day that should be celebrated with intense remembrance of all those that have tragically been killed because of being transgender. I didn't really know it at the time until one of my friends brought it up that evening. But yes, that's as depressing as it goes. Second one. This one is going to sound pretty intense, but I don't know, I feel like that first one was probably worse. So, I caught COVID. Obviously, I'm still kicking, I'm still alive, my voice is somewhat returned to normal, although I did have a fair bit of cheese for dinner, so there's a bit of a going on there. But that comes to be expected. For the most part, it lasted for about 5 days or so. After that, it was all just trying to figure out what to do with myself until I would finally be free again to go into the outside world. Thankfully, though, I was able to rediscover a game that was able to keep me sane. BioShock. For those of you actually watching those videos, the first 2 parts I recorded before I got COVID. Part 3 onward is while I was in isolation. I will admit it took me a few days because, well, quite frankly, I was tired, I was sore, and I kind of sounded mostly like this. And I'm trying to sound a bit more feminine. And then probably the third thing. So, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in some of my other videos, but I found a rather fun side effect hormone replacement therapy as well as just transitioning in general. There is a lot of societal pressure for men to just be invincible. Strength of a man always seems to be measured in the idea of how much they can take, but yet just still keep going on with the biggest smile on their face, and they just slowly suffer in silence. This was the mentality that I was brought up as well. Most of the time, emotions were just kind of shoved in, and I just kind of dealt with them in short little bursts whenever nobody was around. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons it took me so long to transition in the first place, because I can take a lot before I just say I'm done with it and I need to be able to do something more substantial with it. But anyway, I was just having this conversation with a friend who was just a little concerned about things I said in the past. And so I told him my story. There's a bit more to it, but I don't want to get you too depressed, and, well, there's only so much I'm comfortable about sharing with my personal life, as well as, well, what happened when I was a lot younger. But to get to the point, they made it very clear that it's perfectly natural to feel emotions, to feel hurt, to feel sad, to feel angry. And the main thing is just being able to let those out constructively. For the most part, I'm not much of a crier. I'm just so used to not being able to do so that it's kind of become difficult. But once again, I get pushed too far, and that's when the waterworks start coming, and I will admit I kind of had a few tears to shed after that conversation. It was just a relief to hear that I could just be myself. And in the end, I guess this is what it's all about. The ability to finally be who you are 100%. So that's really all the depressing stuff. Now this next thing to mention may be a little off-putting to some, so I'm just going to give a little bit of a disclaimer that I'm going to be talking about sex. Alright, so I have been told that this new hormone I'm on, progesterone, makes a lot of people a horn dog. Didn't really feel much of anything. Of course, I may also be asexual as well, because, I don't know, like even back in the day, there were several times where there would just be so many guys, I would say, maybe even some of my friends, that were just like, oh, that one is hot, or, ow, and I'm just like, pretty nice shirt on, good figure, good lines. But never really anything that intense. Never really had that fire, I guess is the best way to explain it. So basically, with how my libido is basically just down to zero at this point, I'm just like, you know what? Let's have fun and see if I can take on this No Nut November challenge. I was kind of hoping maybe it would kind of bring some of it back, but well, I guess like before, I'm just trying to be something that I'm not. I will admit, though, there were a few little difficulties. So then, while I find it a lot more pleasurable that I'm on female hormones, like, wow, that's about as far as I want to go with it, because that's gonna just be a little more too. But the only times that I'd ever do it is if I'm having a hard time falling asleep. That's just something that puts me out like that. So there were a few sleepless nights where I'd just kind of be standing there being like, I wish I could just get it over with. And, well, I don't like to go for too many sleep aids. A, I'm worried I'm going to get addicted to them, and B, Well, I hear more medication is more strain on your liver, and, well, I don't want to push it. Like, I want to continue to be able to hormone treatment without breaking anything. But probably the last week or so, for some reason, it was getting a little difficult. Like, not so much like, I have to have it now. It's more like, that'd be nice, actually. But I was able to make it through all right. And it was just kind of fun because I got, like, no libido. Like, I'm basically just doing whatever I want. Like, I recently got into this animator called, I believe it's Teleport. Very great and fluid animation. But for the most part, it's a lot of sexy women. Which I hear for the most part, this is something that kind of gets a lot of people to sweat. I'd be able to watch stuff like that and I'd just be like, that's some pretty good animation there. And not be like, oh, I really need it. But at the same time, I do kind of wonder if maybe I should be disqualified because, well, I have them. I don't have the same hormones as a man. I will actually admit, I was a bit hornier before starting hormone treatment, and, well, this is actually kind of a relief. There were so many times it's just like, no, not again, but I must. So that's the end of that subject. So we come around to probably the biggest thing. For the most part, I am just finding myself overall happier. It's very hard to explain. There's just this general good feeling of, I made the right choice. This feels good. I wish I had done this years ago, stuff like that. And also I've heard some people in the comments, like, I want to say for the 6-month update video, that's when I took a whole bunch of pictures of myself and kind of showed how I was changing over time. Whenever I saw those pictures, all I ever just saw was the hair, just getting a little thicker each time. But now, I'm starting to see something. And it's kind of nice to be able to look in the mirror. I feel like I haven't really gotten to the point of, I love it! It's more like a, that looks pretty good. I like it. And I will admit, being a little over a year in, it's a little disheartening that, well, quite frankly, I was hoping I'd be a little bigger in this area. And there are people still calling me sir, as well as using the he, him pronouns, and I'm just like, how much longer before it starts becoming acceptable? All in good time, though. After all, come to think of it, I'm going to be spending a lot more time as a woman than I did as a man. But this transitional process can really be a toll sometimes, but I know it's worth it. There are just so many times I'm just randomly happy for no reason. I almost feel a little guilty about it because, like, when I go into work on Monday, I'm just like, I'm just kind of happy to be here. I really don't know why. Well, everyone is just like, I hate Mondays. Why are you so happy? I can't stand it. Stuff like that. It's almost like I'm cheating because I'm, like, happier than what the standard person should be, or at least that's how it seems at times. Now, don't get me wrong, I can obviously feel other emotions as well, but on the whole, I just feel happy. I love this. And then this will probably be the last thing I'll end with. So where I am, I get winter, and it's getting kind of cold out. I have been waiting for this for about a year now, because last year I bought a fair bit of winter stuff, some nice boots, some good jackets that are gender affirming, and trust me, it's kind of hard to get shoes in my size, but thankfully there's either some really tall women that donate to this thrift store that I go to, or some women with just really big feet. But probably the biggest thing is whenever I buy clothes, especially long sleeves or a jacket, I find I have arms like an orangutan. Like, most of the time they go up to here. And at least I want it to be up to here because it gets cold and just that odd little area seems a little off. Now, it's perfectly fine if it's, say, down to here, if I got my arms like this. But if I got my arms straight out, that's not good. So the last Saturday of the month, I just felt like getting really dolled up. I put up a little makeup, put on a little lipstick, and I put on some of my winter stuff that I've been waiting so long to wear. And that's probably another thing as well is, well, I was out to a few people last year. I bought this stuff. I wasn't necessarily comfortable in going out in public that way. But now, I am. I've even taken to coming into work that way. I mean, I haven't gotten the confidence to put on the makeup or do the lipstick yet. I feel like that would just kind of cause an uproar at the office. And knowing that some of my male coworkers are kind of the ones that are a bit more hound doggish, I don't want to encourage them. But yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. After all, I can be a bit less restrained in the comments. I feel like in these videos I can only delve so much into certain subjects before I'm flagged as inappropriate. I think I'll end with this particular quote that I saw not too long ago. I feel like for those transitioning, there's at least one person I know of that's smoking hot, and they don't understand why they can't see it themselves. Odds are, you are that smoking hot person to somebody. Until next time, be yourself, no matter who that is.